Like the just clear my calendar, I'll mow the lawn tomorrow, let's order in tonight, that sort of game that really piques your interest here. Top 5.
You already mentioned it. It's KC versus Philly, a Super Bowl rematch in Week 11 in primetime on Monday Night Football. That's what gets everything all kicked off, and we'll see if this one has a dramatic ending, much like the last time these two teams squared off. Then my second big matchup is KC versus Cincinnati. Look, when these two get together, it's always some fireworks, high-powered games. I think the last 4 games that we've seen between these two have finished or have been decided by only 3 points. So this one should be a lot of fun. Could be for the number 1 overall seed, by the way. Remember, this is a New Year's Eve game, Week 17. So it could very well shape up the AFC playoff picture. That third one is Bills and Jets. And this is crazy to me that they decided to put this one in Week 1, only because there's so many ramifications with these divisional games, and especially between the Bills and the Jets, which I think are the top 2 teams in the AFC East. So you get them squaring off, and it definitely plays to the advantage of the Bills. Even though they're on the road here, you still have Aaron Rodgers, who's adjusting to new surrounding, not necessarily a new offense because he's got a familiarity with Nathaniel Hackett, but definitely the players he's playing with. The fourth matchup is obviously the NFC Championship rematch. We got Philly versus San Francisco. And the thing I like is Week 13 might be deep enough into the schedule that allows Brock Purdy to come back from that Tommy John surgery. So if it's not him, we'll see who's quarterback. But nonetheless, whoever's there for San Francisco, hopefully just had a little bit of time there on the roster. And so we can see what these two teams look like scoring off versus one another. And my fifth one was Cincy versus Baltimore. Look, I was born into the AFC North, being drafted to the Cleveland Browns. I love me some AFC North football. I think these are the 2 top teams in the division. It's always fun to watch them square off and play one another. Now, the interesting thing about this one is it is Week 2. It's early in the season. What's also interesting is of the last 5 times these 2 teams have played, Burrow and Jackson have only scored off twice, and they've actually split those games. And in fact, Lamar Jackson, since Joe Burrow's gotten in the NFL, he owns a 3-1 win-loss record versus Joe Burrow. So he's actually got the better of Burrow, which you don't hear about that very often. But new look offense for the Baltimore Ravens with Todd Monk and all the new pieces with Lamar Jackson, that new contract. And then obviously you got the Cincinnati Bengals taking their first 3 picks, throwing on the defensive side of the ball where they need the most help.
Love it. That's a really strong list. I've got some carryover on mine. You know, it's interesting because you don't want to be loaded up with all Chiefs or all Jets because of Aaron Rodgers, and yet I find myself finding, a lot of those repeats in there. I went with Week 1. I want to see Aaron Rodgers off the bat in that Jets green against Josh Allen, opening week of the season. I am most excited about that one just because of the newness of it, and we get the first glimpse of it. Then you went with the Super Bowl rematch. How about the NFC Championship rematch that took place last year in Philly, where all we've heard is I've heard a lot of 49ers saying, well, if we had a quarterback, we would have won that game. I don't know if I believe that, but hopefully whoever they have is healthy at that point and able to play an entire game. That could have, conference title, and playoff ramifications late in the season. And then I had the Bengals versus the Chiefs. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, the top 2 quarterbacks in the league going toe for toe. Sign me up every single time. And then Patrick Mahomes traveling to New York. Again, another one where you got these quarterbacks in the AFC. It's so stacked up. The top 10 quarterbacks in the AFC, you go 10 deep with the amount of talent that's there. I want to see Patrick Mahomes versus Aaron Rodgers in that gangrene. And then finally, for me, you had a Lamar Jackson pick against, a divisional rival. I had him against the Miami Dolphins. I think the Dolphins, we're going to be watching every time Tua Tagovailoa takes a snap. We're going to be watching his health. How does he survive? If he's healthy, he's got all the weapons around him. We saw the way the Ravens blew the lead last year in this matchup. I think it's a really fun game. Of course, the reasons you mentioned about Lamar Jackson, new offense, got some weapons around him. I think that game could be a little bit of a shootout on our hands. So I put that at number 5.
Bengals Chiefs, Week 17. That's going to be good. And it's a game you can watch on CBS. When you talk about the top 5 games to watch, we'll all be watching that one. Brady Quinn, Danny Cannell here